So in this video, I'm going to be talking to you about why does Dan PENA want you to be ruthless when it comes to business. And this is something that he talked about a lot in the seminar as well as his books. You might have watched a lot of his videos. If you don't know who I am, if you're new to the channel, I'm the founder of a healthcare investment company. I have been to Dan PENA's QLA Castle seminar, and I've also been to the QLA Hardcore seminar. And when I did these seminars, they costed about £20,000 each. So I have been around him very up close. I've listened to his book multiple times. I've listened to hundreds and hundreds of hours of content, and I have applied the model in the UAE, and I've managed to build a team that has done, that has previously done billions of dollars in transactions, and they have combined 200 plus years of experience. And I've personally been involved in multi-million dollar negotiations with $1 million businesses, $10 million business, $25 million business, and even $100 million businesses personally. And the $100 million business was a subsidiary of a publicly listed company which is worth around billions of dollars. So that's the kind of exposure that I've had. So not only have I been to the castle, I've applied the knowledge and I've seen what it can do. And I have a reference point to validate what he says it's true or not. So there is one concept that he's talked about in the book and as well as in the seminar is about being ruthless, and being selfish. So what is it that he means by this? I think it's important to put it in the right context. And this is something that I did not understand when he talked about guys like Steve Jobs or Steve Ballmer or Henry Ford. These people were ruthless people, cold-hearted, ruthless people, as he says. And I did not resonate with that very well because I did not want to be somebody who was ruthless. I did not want to be someone who was vicious, and I did not want to be someone who was selfish. And I didn't think that these people were that. But the truth of the matter is, if you look deep enough, there's always those character traits in these high-performance individuals. So I did not understand why he's saying this, because I did not resonate with that very well. And the rationale behind this is that wherever there is value, in nature or in business, you would find a lot of predators surrounded that thing of value. Whether it's, a water body in a forest, you will have alligators, lions, and all kinds of predatory creatures around that would prey on the weaker animals. Well, the same is true in the corporate world. Wherever there is a lot of money involved, there's going to be a lot of predators around that area. It's not the same environment as, you're walking on the street or, just making a couple of $1,000s. Those types of environment do not have a lot of predators, although you may find some predators even there. But the big predators, the vicious, absolutely vicious types of predators and vampires and parasites are all wrapped around money and all wrapped around resources or anything that's of value. Anything that's of value in nature or in the business world, you would find parasites and alligators and crocodile and vampires. I'm speaking metaphorically, obviously. So I did not understand this. My disposition when I was entering into the corporate world was that if I am good, the person in front of me is going to be good. If I am fair, the person in front of me is going to be fair. If I am honest, the person in front of me is going to be honest. If I am empathetic, the person in front of me is also going to take my feelings into consideration. But that's not the environment you're walking into. You can clearly compare the corporate world, the ruthless corporate world, with nature. You remove all the bullshit, and what you have is the truth. And in nature, in wild nature, you can see the truth without bullshit. It's all war and battle and parasites and all kinds of ugly things. And that's the same thing with the corporate world. So if you go in with this disposition of being all goody two shoes, then what would happen is that you would be perceived as somebody who is naive, and you would attract all kinds of parasites. You would attract all kinds of ruthless and vicious forces that are going to prey on you. Whereas if you have a very mean disposition, even though it's just a front, people will kind of be a little bit careful not to mess with you. People are not going to use their tricks on you. These predators are going to be a little bit careful with you if you have a little bit of a mean disposition, right? And by disposition, I mean, state of mind or attitude. So that's one of the reasons why Dan Pena asked us not to smile in business meetings. Because if you smile, you are communicating that you are here to please. You are going there to make an offering of yourself. You're trying to make yourself into an offering to this alligator that you just met. So it's not a healthy practice or not a good practice to smile. A lot of the people in the hospitality business or even in your workplace, it may be a healthy practice to smile, but when you're dealing with multi-million-dollar deals, it's not a good practice to smile. It's better to have a little bit of a mean attitude, even if it's just a frown on the face. So it's not just about having a disposition, but you have to have a no-nonsense attitude. You cannot let people take advantage of you, and they will. There is, as I said, I had this thought process that if I am not taking advantage of somebody, they're not going to take advantage of me, but that's not the case. If there is millions of dollars, this is a line from his book, when there is millions of dollars on the table, integrity is the first thing that's going to go out of the window. When you're talking about tens of millions of dollars which are on the table, and in mergers and acquisitions, $10 million is not a big number, because these are big businesses, and businesses are typically valued in big numbers. It's not a car or some small object. It's a business. It's an ecosystem. So $10 million business is considered small to medium sized. So it's not a big amount, but that kind of money brings out emotions which are of a different kind, of a different nature. I remember I was going through a presentation. It was a $10 million business, and we were performing an analysis. And it's one thing to talk about it, and the other thing is when the business is actually on the laptop, the spreadsheet, and you can see the numbers. And I put it on the screen, and I saw that the person's facial expression completely changed when I presented the numbers. And before seeing that presentation, the person's attitude was one, and after seeing the presentation, the person's attitude towards me changed completely. I mean, he became all obliged and all happy, and he was willing to give a time or whatever. And I also saw jealousy. I also saw vengeance, because initially there was excitement, and then he realized I'm in the way. And you are entering into a zone where you are going to be having access and control over a lot of resources. And when somebody has a lot of access and control over resources, people have an incentive to take that person out of that position. You get into this dynamic of war because you hold all these resources, and if you are taken out, then all that resources can become available to this person. So there is a financial incentive to take you out. And you have to be aware of that dynamic, that when you put yourself in a position of power, it's no longer what it used to be for you. You may be, a lot of the people who come to the seminar, they are not in a consequential position in their life before the seminar. It's, some of them are, but a lot of them are not. After the seminar, as they start to execute the model, they may find themselves to be in a position of power. And they may not have made the internal shifts that are necessary to be in that position, because the whole dynamics have changed. You are in their way. You are in the way of a lot of people, and you are a target. So having a good empathetic or compassionate types of attitudes are not considered virtuous. They are considered a fault. They are considered naive, when there are resources involved. A war, a battlefield is not a place where you show compassion and empathy. And the reason I keep bringing these values is because I had this sticking point. This person, one of my business partners, wants to take me out. He's conspiring against me, and he doesn't care. He just wants to cold-heartedly take me out. And what I could think about is his family, his children, how much money he's going to make, and I'm being his friend, and I'm being compassionate, I'm being empathetic towards him, and he's being vicious and ruthless towards me. So that empathy and compassion is not a virtue. It's not an appropriate behavior to feel empathetic towards a crocodile, when he's about to come to attack you. That's not an appropriate attitude to have. At that point, shit has hit the fan, and you got to be ruthless. So if you have been trained into a lot of the moral framework where you are trained to be a good person, you are going to find extremely difficult to suddenly switch positions and suddenly act in a ruthless manner. You're going to feel that this is out of your character. But the ruthlessness is there inside of you, and it's necessary in certain situations. Another sticking point that I found with myself and also other individuals is that to try to create a collaborative dynamic where it's not a collaborative dynamic. There can only be competition. There can be no collaboration. There is a competitive dynamic. Certain situations have a competitive dynamic, and it's not personal, it's just business. You have to be ruthless when there is competition. You cannot try to befriend the person when you're in a competition with them. It's like two guys like one girl. There can be no collaboration possible in that situation. You both like that one girl. There can be only ruthless competition in that situation. So there are these dynamics that I wanted you to be aware of, and I wanted to put in perspective what Dan Pena means by being ruthless. So these are the more obvious ones. The other thing that he wants you to be ruthless in terms of your family and friends. Well, with family and friends, it's a little bit different, because these people will try to cajole you or emotionally manipulate you or tell you a sad story and try to make you feel guilty and then exercise control over you. These are not crocodiles, but these are more like parasites. These are small in size, and they bite off your power little by little, and they consume you over time, like a leech. So you have to be ruthless with them too. And we are taught these values that you have to be tolerant and you have to be sparing. You have to spare someone. You have to be forgiving, right? Forgive. Thou shalt forgive, right? But what you want to be is intolerant. What you want to be is unforgiving. If somebody has hurt you, if somebody has wasted your time, disrespected you, knowingly, they went against you for a personal gain, you can't forgive them. You have to be ruthless and you have to remove them out of your life. They know what they were doing and what effect it's going to have on you, and they still went with it because they were too consumed with their own self, and they wanted to use you as a scapegoat to benefit themselves. You cannot tolerate that behavior. You have to be intolerant. And this could look like as simple as wasting your time, calling you for a meeting just to squeeze your brain, and they had no intention of doing a deal. And this also happened with me, where I met a lot of the sellers and they just wanted to have a conversation with me, and I just sat there for an hour listening to their sob story. And it's because I had this itch of being a good person, and we all have that itch of being saintly and good. But it's much better to be ruthless and selfish and have that as a disposition than being saintly and good. Because once you get into that little mask of being a saint, you have to kind of continue the act. But if you say that, listen, I'm no saint here, I'm here for business, I'm here for money, I'm not interested in any of the personal stories, let's get to the point here. It's far better to be that, and it's far better to be perceived as someone mean than somebody naive. So that's what Dan Pena mean by being ruthless, is not necessarily being ruthless on innocent people, but being ruthless towards people who are taking advantage of you, either overtly or covertly. Covertly would be a leech, and overtly would be a crocodile. So that's, metaphorically speaking, those would be the analogies on how to look at these different types of creatures that you would find in the corporate world. So I hope you enjoyed the video. If you liked it, hit that subscribe button, and I'll talk to you soon.